guys, how you doing? My name is Allie, and I like to talk about how you can roleplay and BOD. Now let's begin. So I'm gonna start off saying what roleplay is and what really it is. So basically, roleplay is supposed to be acting in a game. So basically, you're basically interacting with other players. You're acting out like normal people in real life, or acting out like you know what I'm talking about. And so the first thing I'm going to start with is how roleplay is going to start for you, and how what you should start with when you're doing this. And the first thing you want to do is that you want to start at the ground basics of the rules of roleplay. And so I'm going to explain them really quick. Pretty simple. Roleplay. So basically, here we go. Roleplay. In roleplay, as the actor, you can't be a god role player. Now, what that means in a god roleplay is that you can't be Almighty God. You can't be invincible all the time. Like, let's say, like, if somebody hits you in real life, you can't fake it and say, well, you know, that didn't happen. Or, I mean, that's a terrible example, but you get my point. So you're not supposed to act like you can overdo everybody. Or basically, you can't act like that you are a total goddess and everybody should worship you. That's what I'm really meaning about being a god role player. And so here's the next role that I like to play a little bit, and that is being a troll. Now, I'm not saying if you've been a troll in the past, you probably have a bad reputation already. So basically, a troll is somebody who annoys a crowd of people, who is mean to them and doesn't stop. And they continue to do so without giving any sympathy or remorse, and to the point where somebody will ignore you. So in roleplay, if somebody is roleplaying, please do not be the butt in the face and do it on purpose. If somebody asks you to please stop, they're not being mean to you. They just are having a bad day, or they just don't want to interact right now. And just give people a little bit of space, and you should be fine. The next rule of roleplay that I like to start off to as well is read lore first. Now, what I'm saying is, yes, history is applied to BOD a little bit. Now, there is not a lot of lore too, and lore is basically just a history of the game. So basically, you can't come up with information outside the game that's not real. So basically, you can't come up with a story about yourself in a game and say, well, I came from a faraway kingdom, or you came from a wealthy unknown family and you live on a mansion somewhere. You can't really do that. So basically, you can only implement things that are in the game that are there, rather than making them up and putting them in a backstory. So that rule is basically, the first thing you need to do is read up on your history first before you just start role playing out of nowhere. Okay? And so the next rule of role play, and yes, there's a lot of rules. When you're interacting in an attack mode, or interacting with other players and you're in a combat scenario, you can't overdo that. Never mind, skip that part. Okay, so basically, what you can't do in an action against another player, you can't kill them right away, you can't do it right away, and everything else. And then here's the next part about roleplay as the rule, is that, You can't be a douchebag, okay? I mean, now what I'm being saying about the douchebag part is you can't always be the number one attention seeker at a role play. Role play doesn't work that way. And so role play is basically a community thing, and so where you're going to be interacting with other people. So if you're constantly pulling in the situation, it's all about you, then roleplay's not really for you, because that's what most of the roleplay is about. That's what most of the things are about. And a lot of it has to do with anything else, like, just being in general. Don't be the person who thinks it's all about them, really. I mean, it ends up terrible in the end, trust me. Alright, now we're going to begin at the principles of roleplay. Now, what the principles of roleplay are basically these backstories. Now, like I said, a backstory is basically a sheet or once you know the lore, once you know the history, you start to implement things about your character if you're an elf, if you are so-and-so. And you start creating like a book or a story based on your character. And as I said, once you know those rules strictly enough, then you start to develop the backstory of your character. Now, this is what I say for the first time if you've been never roleplayed before, is to apply the rules first before you write down your backstory. Because what's going to happen is you're going to write down your backstory, it's not really going to work out for you, or it's not going to really be the way you want it to be. And then you start right away interacting with people, and people are going to be like, what? What did you say? What are you talking about? And you're all messed up, and you're frustrated, and all this stuff. So start to apply the rules first, like I said. Now, how you're going to do that, I'm going to show you really quick. So, I'm a roleplay teacher. I've been for about 4 years now. But simply, I'm going to teach you how to start interacting with people in the game. So now, here's the rule. Here's some more rules. I know there's a lot of rules, but not a lot, just to save your butt from, if you don't know how to do it or anything. So basically, like I said before, roleplay is acting in a game. And so, when you're interacting with people in dialogue, like as you're acting to another character, you're going to put parentheses around your dialogue, and then empty texting around outside of the parentheses. You're going to put the action that you're doing. So some interactions in the game you can't make, so you're going to go ahead and put that outside the parentheses. Don't put them inside. The inside parentheses are going to be what you're dialecting and what you're saying in game, like as your character acting, and the outside is going to be action, just outside the parentheses. And then let's say, okay, let me go ahead here. So I'm going to say, well, hello, nice to meet you. Okay, so like I said down here, I said, well, hello, nice to meet you, ... I didn't start an action yet, so that's my character's dialogue. And then I'm going to say, in blank text, she looks at you very strangely, wandering around your shoulders. Presently responds with a smile. Okay, so here is what I put down as my action. My action, I said, was, she looks at you very strangely, wandering around your shoulders. Presently responds with a smile. And here's the funny part. If you make a mistake in either the dialogue of your character inside the parentheses or outside in the action. Here's a funny part. You're going to press shift and then you're going to press 8, and that little star is going to indicate that you're correcting what you did in your work. So say somebody doesn't understand what you're saying, put a star, don't put parentheses or anything, just put a plain star in front, and then put in the text what you wanted to correct, and they'll automatically know like where you fixed your grammar or where you fixed your problems. And here's the next part that I want to talk about. Okay, now what I was covering is basically the action, the dialogue, but now let's say you're in a group of full of people, right? Let's say it's getting really confusing. Let's say you're talking to somebody and somebody else thinks you're talking to them. Well, that's getting confusing, right? So basically, you're going to take the outside action thing, like the action outside the parentheses as you're texting, and you're going to put an @ sign. You're going to put the @ symbol, like if you put an email like @Gmail or something like that. And you're going to put the @ symbol, and then you're going to type out the person's name in the action. So let's say, I'm looking at Anna, or I'm looking at Rebecca, and I'm going to put the @ symbol, and I'm going to put Rebecca or the name of their character. And so what this @ symbol with the name next to it is going to do is going to show up who to that person that it's indicating that that's them. They're interacting with you, or you're interacting with them. And so that way it keeps the conversation going, so nobody's asking, who the hell am I talking to? Where are we at? And the next thing in roleplay is in and out of character. Now, in and out of character. Now, what am I talking about? So as acting, a part of acting, you're going to have some situations where you're going to either want to talk for a minute outside of your character's background story or just in the game. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a shift, and then you're going to push 9 and then 0 around your text. Twice around that, and then you're going to put what you're wanting to say to that person outside of your acting. And if it I'm gonna go ahead and put, hey, I'm going to go AFK right now. So basically I put the shift around what I'm saying. So I would say, hey, I'm going to AFK, and that's out of character. That's out of my acting. So that's what I do for that situation in roleplay when I'm interacting with people without acting out my character's backstory or anything. Okay, and here's the next thing. As well as the backstory, in the backstory that you come up with and everything, you're going to start putting in your profile. Now, I'm going to start with this. So you're going to press any button that goes up to My Information. And once your backstory is set and complete and everything, you know that that's what you want. And if you follow the rules like I said, and it follows those guidelines of those rules, then you're going to take a picture of your character's appearance, your current appearance of your character that you're role playing. You're going to click the little camera icon, take a portrait of yourself. So the person who pulls up your picture will know that's you, or if they want to know what you are. Now, like I said, don't metagame, don't look at the person's information. So basically now you're going to take a profile picture, you're going to take your background story that you came up with your character, and then you're going to put in the plain text, let's say I'm a farmer, I'm going to put an introduction to yourself, Northern Plantation Trader, or a member, or whatever your character is. Now, if you're talking about something you do in real life or outside a character, do the same thing. Do shift, not do shift 9 and see the little icon at the top and put the parentheses, or not the parentheses, but the lines around it, and it will automatically tell the person, hey, I'm a writer, or hey, I'm a roleplay teacher. And once you get that, register what you put down in there, and it should say introduction submitted. And so that person knows what you are, what your roleplay is and everything, and what you really do in the game itself. Now once you have that down, it's time to get down to the real basics of what's going to start happening. So once you have your backstory figured out and everything, once you roleplay with a few people, it's going to start getting to the point, and I'm sorry to say this, that you have to have flaws to your character. Now, when I'm saying flaws to your character is that your character can't be perfect all the time. Let's say you're role-playing, you're acting out your character, your dialogue, somebody says something. Don't take the negative criticism of your role-playing being bad. The first thing of indication of that's what having the warning signs that you're having trouble role-playing is to learn what you're having trouble with and to work on what you do. So you should be able to go to your notepad and make some notes based on that. You can color code in anything. And as well, I'm a writer as well. Anyway, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. And as well, as acting and roleplay, it's kind of like you're writing. So when you're writing a book, or when you're writing character dialogue, apply like all your English stuff to it. Like, don't repeat somebody's name 15 million times if they automatically know that you're talking to them. Don't make a long paragraph about what your character is describing their action to be outside the parentheses, outside your character's dialogue. And don't make a huge sentence all the time and do anything. And roleplay takes a lot of time, so if you're really impatient with roleplay and people taking a while to typing out their dialogue or typing out what they're interacting, their action to you, don't be ashamed. Just give them a moment and they'll interact with you. Some people can interact very quickly in roleplay and some people can't. So you have to know to be patient at that time. The next thing I like to talk about in anything is that in roleplay itself, you can always change your backstory. You don't always have to have that same backstory. You don't always have to play that same backstory. If you're not happy with the roleplay that you've been doing, you can change it. Just make sure again that it follows the rules in what you're doing. Make sure you have it saved like a Google Doc or anything works well. And make sure that you're understanding that you don't have to play that character in the game. Okay? Alright, and the next thing with fashion. Oh, fashion. Again, we're talking about fashion. Alright, so what fashion I'm going to get into is that with BOD you can customize your character. I love this part of the game. Let's go here really quick. You can go to the beauty shop. And so once you get your BOD and you have your outfit and everything that you want, start messing around with, your appearance. Start making your character look better. Start making yourself look good, the way you feel. Feel confident when you act. Have confidence in what you do. Always have self-confidence when you're role-playing. Now, if it feels uncomfortable,